Welcome to the Vandy Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Lee. Our guest today will be Willy Daunic. We thank our sponsor, WellSpire, Nashville's Learning and Development Center. WellSpire offers personal and professional development opportunities in a beautiful facility in the Gulch neighborhood. Stop by for an event with world-renowned speakers or host an off-site event that will wow your team or your clients. We also thank our co-sponsor, the Well Coffee House, which turns coffee into water and has a mission to bring clean water to the world. Today's news presented by Sutherland & Belk, a Nashville-based injury law firm. Sutherland & Belk is committed to fighting for those who've been injured in car, motorcycle, and truck accidents. Check them out at sbinjurylaw.com. Vanderbilt and LSU play Saturday. Game time will be 11 Central. That game will be shown on the SEC Network. The guest line brought to you by Boll & Branch, started by Vanderbilt graduates Scott and Missy Tannen. I've slept on these sheets for years. They're phenomenal, and I had no idea what I was missing until I got them. They are fair trade certified. That means they're made under safe conditions by men and women who are treated and paid fairly. Try them for a month. You can return them for free, but you won't want to. Once you have the sheets, try the mattress. That was voted best mattress of 2018. Go to bollandbranch.com. That's spelled B-O-L-L. Enter the promo code Vandy. Get $50 off your first set of sheets. Willy Daunic joins us now. You know him as a former Commodore basketball and baseball player. Others know him as the voice of the Nashville Predators or the host of Darren Daunic and Chase on 102.5 The Game. Willy, you wear a ton of hats, and thank you for joining us this morning at a busy time for you.
Yeah, it is getting busy. The first preseason games of the season last night for the Predators, and so they won both games. Got a lot of young players out there, so it's good to be back in the flow, and the season starts October the 3rd.
I'm curious, what is your favorite sports time of the year? I would think this would be on the short list at least because hockey's starting, you're a big baseball guy, and the playoffs are around the corner. You've got the NFL and college are hitting the stride now. Where does this rank in terms of favorite times of the year for you?
Well, Chris, we've had a great debate over the years on the Sports Talk Show, whether it's this month or whether it's March with March Madness. I think it's pretty close, and usually all the answers revolve around those 2 months. But I would choose October. I think because I'm as big a baseball fan as there is, and it doesn't get any better in baseball than the month of October. Plus, you get the start of hockey season, and you get football going into the full swing of things. So I'm an October guy.
Is baseball still your favorite sport?
Oh, I don't know if I would say it's my favorite. It's right up there, though. I think it's right there with anything. I still follow it. I know a lot of people don't get up and devour the box scores like we used to when we were younger, and you couldn't wait for the newspaper to come out. And, you watch SportsCenter in the morning to see all of the highlights of the various games. But I still do. I'm one of those guys, so I'm a junkie.
What are your Vanderbilt baseball storylines to watch in the fall? I guess the easiest one is Walker Buehler because the Dodgers would have to be the odds-on favorite to win the National League and go to the series, and I would think that the Astros the same in the AL. Of course, the Astros no longer have Tony Kemp, who's on the Cubs, so there's a potential Vandy angle there. But what are the things that you're watching as they involve Vanderbilt in the postseason?
Well, there's not as many as there were last year. Unfortunately, there was a ton last year. Almost every team that made the postseason had a connection to Vanderbilt one way or the other. And so that being said, I guess, one of the big stories for me would be, can the Dodgers break through and win the whole thing? They have really built a deep, deep roster, which includes Walker Buehler, and he's going to, I think, play a huge role in the postseason. So I think that would be right at the top of the list. Other than that, I just think it's been so fun to watch, for example, Sonny Gray bounce back and have an outstanding season. And the list goes on. I think they hit a record high of Vanderbilt baseball players playing in the big leagues this year. I think the number got up to 15 at one point.
That's crazy. Yeah, it is amazing to see how much that program's taken off. But, Willy, we've got a few minutes this morning. Let's switch to football for a minute. I think your optimistic take on this season would be that after Saturday, the toughest games are behind them, and it's sort of a new season. How much do you see things changing going forward? Where is your optimism for this year? I mean, I guess the offense is an easy answer, but what are the things that you're seeing where you could see this season getting markedly better?
Well, the way I thought about it, and maybe I'm glass half full, is I actually think there's a positive angle to having difficult games early in the season. I guess it was a little disappointing to see Purdue go and lay an egg last Saturday. That didn't give me a good feeling at all. But with LSU coming in, you've got a major challenge. You've got an opportunity for, some positives there. But the bottom line is 0-3 was not out of the question going into the season once you saw the schedule. And I think what it does is the season is not riding on those 3 games, and it's given them some time here, especially with the bye week in there, to work on some things, identify where they've got to get better, and what is working so far, what is not working. So it's a quasi preseason to me, in my mind, if you want to look at it that way, because as we've discussed before, the schedule is going to get more favorable, especially with some of the quarterback injuries that have gone on around the league. It's really incredible, although I think some of the teams are dealing with those injuries pretty well. But I think really the season begins after Saturday, and I don't want to minimize Saturday's game because, no coach is going to sit there and go, well, we're not supposed to win, so we don't care what happens. I think they need to go out and play a good football game against LSU, try to build some confidence. But I think the key is what happens after Saturday.
Yeah, 0-3 I don't think is what bothers people. It's 0-3 and not having really looked good yet. And that just seems to have, of course, Vanderbilt's only 0-2 at this point, but I don't think anybody's anticipating to beat LSU. It just seems like the way they've looked the first few weeks has taken a lot of wind out of the sails of the fan base.
Yeah, but it's only 2 games. I think everything could change if you had a good game on Saturday. And even if you didn't, like I said, it really starts the following week. And I think it gives you a chance to say, to make the adjustments. You can identify what you thought might work going into the Georgia game. You have a couple games to take a look at with some young players on defense, your quarterback situation, how a new offensive coordinator is trying to distribute the ball the best way he can to the 3 big weapons they have. It obviously hasn't clicked yet, but the good news is you've still got a lot of time. This gives you more time to figure it out. Now it's got to start happening next week because you can't be sitting there after 6 or 7 games going, well, I'm still trying to figure it out. But the games that are most winnable are yet to be played. And I would hope that you have everything sorted out that you want to sort out going into next week's game. And maybe you take a shot at some things against LSU and you come up with a formula that works.
Yeah, I think the thing that you've got to hang your hat on at this point is they do have a lot of offensive talent still. And if you get to the season 0-3 and you don't have talent, maybe there's not a lot you can do. But they've still got a lot to rest on in that regard. Yeah,
and the other thing that I would point out is the offensive line. If they could get that sorted out some and figure out a way to protect a little bit better, they did get a lot of yards against Purdue. And so there's no question that they can move the ball. They've got more than just the 3 big weapons that everybody talks about around the league. There's some other guys that made some plays against Purdue. That was very encouraging. So it's just a matter of distributing the ball, protecting, and putting the guys in the best possible shape. This offense has got to be an efficient offense that scores a lot of points, I think. But I think it's got that capability if they can get good quarterback play and better offensive line play.
Willie, I'm going to go ahead and go to the mailbag, which is sponsored by Vanderbilt fan and independent insurance agent Josh Minton of Brentwood. Are you in the market for auto, motorcycle, home, renters, or landlord insurance? What about life or commercial insurance? Call Josh at 615-933-1979. Email him at josh@hqinsurance.com. Follow him at facebook.com/JD Minton HQ. He's my insurance agent. Hope you'll make him yours. Dorfan has some questions on radio, and by the way, the mailbag this week is very non-Vanderbilt football-centric, but some folks wanted you to answer some questions, And Dorfan starts with, before Vanderbilt, did you ever envision doing what you were doing now for a living?
Yes, I did. I always did want to be involved with sports. I think in my mind, probably from the time I was 7 or 8 years old, my dad was an athletic director at a Division III school up in New York called Manhattanville College. So I was just a gym rat, always at a game, always picking up a tennis racket or a basketball or a football or a baseball and just trying stuff, playing constantly. So it was just ingrained in me when I was a kid that I wanted to be around it. And so there's only 3 ways to do it, right? Or at least in my mind. I wanted to play as long as I could. That was my dream. Played as long as I could. And then it was a matter of whether I wanted to be a coach or an announcer. And so I had an interest in both, and the announcing ended up being the avenue that I chose. And I was very fortunate to get the opportunity I did at a young age, basically just right out of college at Vanderbilt while I was playing a little minor league baseball on the side.
Dorfan wants to know, when did you think, hey, this radio thing may actually work out? How far into your career was it when that happened, or have you actually thought about that yet?
Well, I think it was pretty clear for me. I was released by the Blue Jays organization after a couple of minor league seasons, and that's when I really had to decide. I had done some part-time work with George Flasser on our show called Sports Night. Back then it was on 99.7. The radio station was bankrupt at the time, but it was purchased by Gaylord Entertainment, and they saw something in the show. The show had started to take root. I was a very small part of it at the time. I was just getting my feet wet and learning how the whole thing worked, and I had very little experience, and I think I thought I knew a lot more than I did, to be honest with you. But my stroke of luck was that Gaylord put some money and resources behind it. The show really took off. It also coincided with the Titans and the Predators coming into town a year or two later. And so I was offered a full-time position, not for a whole lot of money, but it was a huge opportunity for me. And so I was entrenched right as Nashville boomed as a sports market, as a major league sports market. So the timing was huge, just like life, right? Timing is everything, they say.
Dorfan wants to know, for a typical 4-hour show, how long do you spend preparing?
Well, I think one way to look at it is you pretty much spend all day preparing. And it's not every minute of the day, but I think, especially in this day and age where on Twitter or on the ticker when you flip on an ESPN, the update is constant, right? You're always taking a look to see what are the stories that are popping out. And then, of course, when the games are being played, you have to follow those games that are of interest to your audience. I'm not saying you have to watch every game, but you have to, in this day and age too, you got to take some games probably. You got to watch the most important games, but you also have to at least make sure that you understand what happened in those games. So it's almost like homework is always piling up, but the preparation is going on. And then it's a matter of communicating with the people you work with on how you're going to lay out your 4 hours. What topics are you going to hit at what times, what guests you want to go on. So there's sort of a constant communication that's being updated throughout the day to plan for the 4 hours, all the segments that you have for your show.
Okay, Bighorn Sheep switches gears, says, since this is a bye week for Vanderbilt football and Willie seems to be someone who likes unique stats, here's a question. Why is it that 7 of the top 20 all-time NFL passing yard leaders are active, including 6 of the top 11, but only 1 of the 20 all-time receiving leaders are an active player? Wouldn't you think those two would correlate a little bit more?
It's a great stat. I have not thought about it a whole lot. My first thought would be just the way that the game is situated now. You have a ton of veteran quarterbacks that have been getting it done for a long time. The Drew Breeses and Tom Brady, of course. And what has changed, I think, with the receivers as the passing game has evolved is, the same quarterback is racking up the yards, but for the most part, they're doing it to a more diverse set of receivers. If you go back 20 years or 30 years, I think most NFL teams had the same basic sets, right? You had 2 wide receivers, maybe a third that came in there, and those were the guys that were going to get most of the yardage. Michael Irvin, it was going to be the main guy, and he's going to be there on every play. Now, if you look at how Drew Brees distributes the ball, yeah, he's got Michael Thomas, but he's got about 5 or 6 other guys that are going to catch passes. So I think they spread the ball around a little bit more. Is an easy way to say it.
See, the top 7, I've got 6 of them off the top of my head. I'm trying to think of the 7th. It's Brees, Brady, Rivers, Roethlisberger, I think Eli Manning, and Aaron Rodgers. I'm trying to think who I'm missing here.
You said Brees, Brady, Rodgers.
It could be Joe Flacco, I guess. He's been around a while.
I wouldn't say him. I don't have the list in front of me, so I'm drawing a blank.
Well, anyway, next question. Well, I'm trying to think who the one receiver would be. Would that be, I don't know if he's played long enough. Would that be Odell Beckham? Or
no,
maybe, or maybe, Green or Jones?
Maybe Larry Fitzgerald?
Oh, well, of course, yeah. I forgot about him. He just kind of blends in.
Yeah, he's still going. He still catches passes.
Yeah, that's definitely the one. Well, Willie, I know you've got to do a Predators promo thing, so we had to cut the show a little bit short today, and next week there'll be a lot more to talk about, good, bad, or indifferent, after the LSU game. But any parting thoughts today worth discussing before I let you go?
I would just say hang in there on the football season. The football season, the story has yet to be told, and I hope there's a good showing on Saturday. I'm sure that will be something. How many LSU fans are in there? People will fixate on that, especially on the outside. And I would say for people that follow the Vanderbilt program, stick in there. The story's yet to be told, and to me, really, the season starts in earnest the following week. That's when I think you're going to get a true evaluation on what direction they're going. And I still have a belief that this could be a successful season, and they can start winning some games and building some momentum. And hopefully they give LSU a really good fight. This might be a good time to play LSU. This might be a real good time to play LSU, but they've got an immense amount of talent, that's for sure.
I was just thinking of something. The attendance has been a big point of discussion. It's almost like, I know this isn't how it happened, but it's almost like someone set out to say, how can we just absolutely kill attendance? Hey, I know, let's open with Georgia. Let's throw LSU as a second home game. And then let's make that in the Northern Illinois game in week 3, 11 o'clock kickoffs when it's brutally hot.
Oh, it's been awful. I think you saw the Titans game on Sunday. It was the hottest game that they've ever had for a game at that stadium. And it definitely affected people not only going, but staying the entire game, being a part of the game. So it's reality. I mean, it's brutal out there. I'm the first to say it. So, they got the 11 a.m. start. It's not going to be cold. That's for sure. But they've only played one home game. Got a long way to go. And I will say this too. It's amazing how, look through the history, one good performance can really change the outlook of everything. I think if they play a good football game, win or lose, I think we'll have a much better feeling, much different feeling next time when we talk on Tuesday.
By the way, I was out of town. What was attendance for the Titans game like on Sunday?
It was pretty good considering it wasn't full. I don't know if they announced the sellout or not. I would say that most of the it's better than it has been on sort of your average game. I would say, there's definitely for opening day, you would hope that thing's packed to the gills. But I understand people not wanting to pay to sit in the upper deck to roast, for 3 hours there. But I think all things considered, it was not a bad crowd. It was not the best. Not ideal. I still think they got a lot of work to do building their fan base there. But like I said, it was. I think I would give it a solid B.
Willie, before you leave, give out your Twitter handle. Tell us about your shows and anything else that you'd like to promote.
We're weekdays 10 to 2 on 102.5 The Game, ESPN Radio Nashville, and of course the Predators crank it up. Our first broadcast is the final home preseason game on October 25th. On Fox Sports Tennessee. And you can follow me on Twitter at WillieD1025.
Thanks a bunch, Willie.
All right, Chris, talk to you soon.
He's Willy Daunic. I'm Chris Lee, host of the Vandy Sports Podcast. Thank you for listening. We'll drop a couple more episodes later in the week.